Hi, this is Steve McCollum. I'm here with Kyle Forster. Hi, Kai. How are you doing?
Hi, Steve. Doing well.
So everybody would like to know the history of Big Switch, where you came from, how this was conceived, and what the company's all about.
Sure. You know, if you look at the original founding team of Big Switch, now we're quite a bit larger now, but if you look at the founding group, it was really the Stanford Research Group. My co-founder and CEO, Guido Appenzeller, was on the faculty at Stanford and actually led the engineering arm of the team that developed the OpenFlow 1.0 standard. You know, Guido and I had actually been social friends since back in grad school. We had offices next to each other back at Stanford while he was still working on his PhD and I was working on my master's. So at the time, Guido and his team were just getting the OpenFlow 1.0 standard out. 1.0 came December 31st, actually a couple hours before midnight of 2009. You know, to be frank, it took a lot of the hard problems that we were looking at back at Cisco, and it just made them so much easier. I spent most of my career at Cisco, first on the cellular side, then my last project was as the product manager for a couple of our lines of wireless LAN controllers. You know, I kind of saw OpenFlow as the opportunity to do a lot of the same, you know, taking some of the same design patterns, but when applied in the data center, we can simply make better products this way. The other camp, design patterns around OpenFlow have shown up in a number of different, both startups and in broadly accepted networking technologies. The concept of a centralized control plane is a very normal thing in cellular. It's a very normal thing in wireless LAN. It was a very normal thing actually in a number of ATM companies. When you look at specifically data center switching, where OpenFlow today is getting so much traction, it's not the only place I think that OpenFlow plays, but today it's where it's getting a lot of traction. That's just an area of networking where a lot of these centralized control plane techniques had never been used. But they've certainly been used in other markets with great success. So I think we had talked about where's the eureka moment? I think for us, when we look at, especially with the beta customers that we're working with, whom we're working, there's this moment where you see a cloud solution augmented from click here to get my 10 VMs to click here and get my 10 VMs plus my managed switch that's connecting them. And that, to us, is always the beginning of the aha moment. And now when we look at, oh, here are the other things you can plug into that switch. You have legacy servers that aren't virtualized that can be plugged in. You have firewalls that need to be plugged in. You have very specific routing that needs to be plugged in. Being able to do this seamless integration of the virtual and the physical is a big part of what we do, and that's really where we see the aha moments with customers.
What's your vision for the future?
I think if you look at the vision that motivates many of us here at Big Switch, it's this vision that's sometimes called software-defined networking. It's this idea that, I don't know, it's 5 years from now, it's 8 years from now, it's 10 years from now, it's sometime in the medium-term future, that a customer will be able to have one set of hardware that they lay into the ground, right? That they lay into their racks and their data centers, and then have a whole series of features that they can add on to those that would come from different vendors. So you might be able to say, hey, I want these 3 ports to be a firewall. I want these 10 ports to be a router. I want these 8 ports to be a load balancer. But have these be fundamentally software packages that modify the behavior of hardware that you have in the network. If you look at, I think for our customers, why they think that's compelling, well, certainly there's this idea that they can reconfigure a data center at a moment's notice. They can reconfigure a data center in software. That's an incredibly important piece of the vision. But there's also a commercial aspect to it that I think is important. It says that the networking ecosystem starts to begin to look a little bit more like a software industry ecosystem. A far larger number of small companies, a far faster rate of innovation. And no more, hey, I get all of my features that I will ever need all in one box from one single vendor.